more or less since the very beginning. So for me, it's a big pleasure to be here today, not only because I'm excited to see the results that are going to be presented here by the three projects highlighted by Recom and Discover, but also, as I said, I've been monitoring and being in close touch with the three consortiums since the beginning of activities. And for us, it's CINEA, it's always a big excitement when we manage to, go throughout the implementation of a project, and these three are closely approaching the end of activities to really to see what was implemented and the good outcomes that the projects managed to deliver. So as I said here, today I'm representing CINEA, which is, in short, the European Climate, Infrastructure and Environment Executive Agencies. And it's one of the agencies established by the European Commission. And in our case, we're in charge of implementing a set of programs that are, to some extent, all dedicated to the implementation and achievement of the EU Green Deal. You see the programs here on the screen. So they're either programs or parts of programs that are managed by CINEA specifically. And of course, I'd like to emphasize the LIFE program, or the sub-program of LIFE, that it's in charge of providing the co-funding for the activities of the projects. Very briefly, what's CET about? So it's LIFE Clean Energy Transition in short. And we are a EU program, of course, focused on implementing a set of actions that are targeted into the main objectives you see on the screen. We're focused really a lot of the activities in breaking market and regulatory barriers. You will see later that many of the projects were focused in this type of activities. At the same time, we're covering the improvement of government skills and capacities. There are a lot of projects also dedicating mobilizing investments and access to finance, and particularly private investments into the clean energy transition. And the last but not least, since we're covering here the topic of energy community, the program is also very much aimed into engaging and really trying to put the citizens in the center of the energy transition, and making sure that nobody is left behind in the clean energy transition. So this is a program in short. We've been implementing it since 2021. We'll be running until 2027. So there's still one more year at least for projects. And the total budget is nearly 1 billion euros dedicated for these type of actions. You have a few key figures here of what the program is achieving, thanks to the projects, of course. But I would maybe emphasize that if you're interested in more and hearing more about the program, I think I need to, the slide is not moving forward. Yes, thank you. So if you're interested more in details about the program, I really encourage you to have a look at this publication that we released earlier this year called Giving Life to Europe's Clean Energy Transition, where you'll find, let's say, the program in a nutshell. There is, we're introducing the areas of work of the program, which are the ones you can see in the center of slides. As you can see, one of them is empowering citizens in a clean energy transition, which is very much one of the aspects that are covered by the topic of energy communities. And within these 8 areas of work, you'll find a concrete project example. So really, we're using the projects to exemplify a bit how we're achieving these impacts from the program. So you'll find a total of 28 project examples here throughout the different areas of work. And if you're quick enough, you can use the QR code here you see on the screen to access the publication. I think it's working out. Okay, thank you. So energy communities, the role and potential. We do see energy communities as really the key actors in achieving the Europe's 2030 and 2050 energy and climate targets. We do see in Europe, I mean, we have some countries that are like really successful examples when it comes to the implementation of energy communities. I'm not going to dive into details here, but of course, the level of development, although we see these countries with a good level of development within the energy communities, the level of development across the EU, of course, is uneven, which creates several barriers. Also, there's the fact that most of energy communities, let's say the more traditional ones, are focused on solar PV, but we do see a potential for expanding the scope of these energy communities, also in terms of technology, really to try to explore, let's say, the resources available at the local level, depending where depending on the specificities of the local conditions, right? Of course, they bring a lot of benefits. That's why you're also interested in pushing for this type of initiatives. Of course, they include lowering the energy costs. They create local jobs. There's a social cohesion element, of course. And particularly, of course, in the periods we've been living when it comes to, let's say, instability in the world, which can trigger peaks in the energy prices. We see energy communities also a big potential to minimize this type of negative effects of let's say, external conditions that might be happening in the world. Of course, there are key challenges as well in scaling up, professionalizing, access to finance, and of course, in the beginning of the year, we did send a question to the coordinators of the projects involved in this topic to try to identify a little bit the barriers that energy communities face in Europe. And here I find it interesting to see, of course, I mean, regulation policy comes up on top, followed by financial, which, of course, it comes as no surprise. We do see, and these reflect, of course, a lot of the activities that the projects are trying to implement is really to try to overcome these barriers. But I find it interesting on this slide to see that really, of course, regulation and financial remain as a big barriers for energy communities in Europe, but we do see a little change as if we would ask this question a few years ago, lack of awareness and potential lack of interest would come up on top. But we do see that, you know, the more we're trying to implement and overcome these challenges, the barriers are also changing. So thanks to the projects, of course, we can say that, you know, the awareness has grown, interest has grown. And but of course, other types of barriers remain which makes us, you know, really push forward and try to work with the projects to try to overcome this. And also interesting to see is that really when you're talking about energy communities, technology, it's really not so much of a barrier anymore. Like the technology is there, and what we need is to overcome the other types of barriers, typically regulation and policy, depending on the country. And how do we support these energy communities? I mean, of course, in short, it's via the projects. We're going to hear presentations of 3 successful projects here in the room today that they are in one way or another helping us to overcome these challenges. We're really proud to provide the co-funding for this type of activities. To some extent, the 3 projects here, they all providing some sort of technical support, either via the establishment of one-stop shops to develop, you know, to provide services in different municipalities and regions in Europe to support the development of energy communities. Projects are also doing a lot of collaboration between the communities themselves and local authorities. We do see a lot of value there when we fund your activities, and also a lot of peer-to-peer supports. It's important also that the activities you are trying to implement really focus on the different specific models of energy community. If you remember the previous slide, we were saying that there's a lot of energy communities focused on PV, which is good, of course, but there is also a room to explore different types of let's say, communities as such, for, either covering different types of technologies such as district heating, renovation, flexibility, as you see on the screen, but also pushing for cooperation amongst SMEs and also local authorities to create these communities. And also, we do see a value, although we do have a dedicated topic focused on addressing energy poverty, we do see a value of energy communities also when they're trying to, let's say, create communities also to address let's say, vulnerable consumers and to bring them out of energy poverty. The last one is, of course, one of the challenges also, of course, access to finance. And for that, we do have a very specific project currently running called the European Energy Communities Facility. I have a slide on that project later in the presentation. But yeah, in short, so today you're going to hear a lot about Discover, ISLET, and PowerEcom, but they are part, we also like to present, they're part of this family of Life City projects. So here we're going to hear about these 3, but there's more. There's other projects that also either covering different aspects of energy community or addressing other places in Europe. And I really welcome you not only to, of course, stay tuned until the end for the presentations of the 3 projects, but also to check the other projects we do have on this topic. Quick enough? It's a nice slide. So if you take the project logos that were just presented, here you have a slide on the different scopes. I think as I quickly introduced before, there's a lot of projects working in setting up services or providing services for energy community, or in other words, the so-called one-stop shops. But we do have from these projects also working in different areas, such as directly community implementation. There's a lot of capacity building and training activities for local actors, both at citizens, but also at local and regional authorities. And then furthermore, working on working with authorities to incorporate their local regional plans, fostering cooperations with SMEs, as I said before, and also on financing mechanisms for community energy projects. If we dive in, so for the ones working on one-stop shops, here you have a bit the scopes of the services that these one-stop shops provides. As you can see, they're quite varied, but there's a lot of focus on awareness-raising campaigns, advice and support for community engagement actions, local and regulatory advice. And as you can see, they are all trying to address to different levels the challenges that we identified before. So that's why for us it's actually important that you're setting these services to help us to overcome these challenges. Here you have a picture of a map. This is also, let's say, a visual representation of where these services are located in Europe. As you can see, there is quite a few. Maybe I should just mention that really this only reflects the projects funded by the Life CET programs. I'm sure there are other services also available, but here you have a visual representation of what the projects, so the 3 projects and also the other ones that we're funding, where their services are located. I think if you look by the names and the color, I think so ISLET is a green, Power Econ, different level of green. Discover is red, so you can find a little bit where the services are located. I think people online are very interested. Thanks. So if I'm not going to give a lot of details of the projects in today's program, but here we have like the 3 projects in a nutshell. And of course, you're going to hear all about them in the following presentations. But if I can just say a few words, Power Econ, they worked a lot on developing models for the establishment of energy communities. Here represented today by Ingo and also Álvaro. And they did, for example, have these online mentoring program and training pack, which are still available on the project website. You're going to hear, I think, more details about these in the presentations, but I welcome all the speakers, not only in the room, but also speakers online to check them out. Then we have ISLET, which focus, I think, particularly on developing these help desk. And the particularity here is that they're really targeting energy communities in islands, which is let's say a particular environment that requires different levels of support. Here today we have Alexis and representing Valerio. Flaminia, also representing the projects. There's also a presentation on ISLET plans furthermore. And I think for the last but not least, as I think we have more representatives from the whole consortium here today, you have Discover. And they're going to hear like the details on the presentation on the support services they develop, but particularly on the step-by-step guidebook, both the general one and the focus on the national levels of the countries where the project is working on, where they really, they have a one-stop shops and helping you to develop business plans for each service hubs in the pilot regions. So these are the projects on today's agenda. I think just before I conclude, I think I have a very quick slide on this project that I previously introduced, which is called the Energy Communities Facility, which it's, let's say, a particular project that they're also proud to be funding. And here the particularity is that they provide a type of cascade funding type of initiative targeting let's say, energy communities ideas. And the particularity here is that they organize calls for funding business plans. So anybody who has a energy community idea, but of course has this challenge of overcoming the access to finance, in particular in the beginning, here this project has the opportunity to fund you and providing, I think, up to 45,000 euros of lump sum grants dedicated in really supporting you to develop a solid business plan to implement your energy community ideas. you can go online. There's more information there, of course, and they do organize calls for proposals, which there's a few conditions that you have to respect, but I welcome people in the room, but also online to check it out. And on top of it, they also have a training program together with the business plans, and I think it's a self-paced program in English for helping you to also to have these so more information about it. Before I conclude, of course, all the 3 projects and the other ones you've seen are funded under the Live CT calls, and every year we have calls for open calls for proposals. This year is no different. So here we have just a very quick slide on the main aspects of this year's call. We do have, again, a topic dedicated to energy communities. The call was published on the 21st of April, and we did host an online info day on the 30th of April, which was recorded. So if you're interested in hearing what we're looking for this year in the topic of energy communities, I would encourage you to check the recordings there. In short, the deadline is the 16th of September. There is the usual minimum of 3 partners from 3 different eligible countries in Europe, and the co-funding rate is the same as 95% as previous years. And I think that's it from my side. I would like just to, conclude by congratulating the 3 projects of reaching here today. I'm looking forward to hear the presentations, but of course it's an important moment. As I said before, I follow the 3 of you, the 3 consortia since the very beginning, and I think reaching the end, it's a very important phase of the project. And I'm sure it didn't come with no efforts from the 3 consortium, and so we really should be proud of what you achieved. And I'm looking forward to the presentations, and I thank you very much, and I'll give back the floor to you, Anna.
Thank you, Vinicius. Thank you for this dive deep into the energy community space and for warming us up. So the next speaker is from Power Ecom, Ingo, and his presentation is going to be Chances, Challenges, and Changes, Energy Communities on the Rise.
Yeah, so hello, also from my side. My name is Ingo. I'm working for WIP, and as you can see here, the name of the presentation is Chances, Challenges and Changes, Energy Communities on the Rise. So very short about Power Ecom. We started in October 2023 and will run still some months until the end of September, working with a budget of circa 1.5 million, and WIP is the coordinator. You see also the logos of all the consortium here. And the main objective of Power Ecom is basically foster the cooperation between regional or local authorities and citizens so that community energy projects can be realized in our target regions in 6 different countries. And these six different countries, we work with the partners, which you can see on the side of the slide, and the green countries are our project countries, and the yellow dots are actually the locations of our partners. We have seen this on the map that Vinicius has showed before. And the question that actually came to my mind when we spoke about this final event was, are energy communities really on the rise? So after almost 3 years of working in Power Ecom, I think it's time for a personal review. Of course, this is only a personal assessment of the situation in the Power Ecom project countries, and I was looking how they enable energy communities. What we heard before already from Vinicius is that, of course, the situation in all the countries is very diverse, so the frameworks differ, and thus also the approaches that need to be taken. And to do my assessment, I have actually invented a rating of 4 different sun conditions, which you can see here. The 4 sun category is relatively easy. It's either, let's say, rising sun or sun in dark clouds, if something is already working, something not. then a sun with bright skies, and then a bright sun. I tried to look for every country into the chances, challenges, and changes. And here we go. So for Austria, of course, we have legal and practical requirements for the implementation of energy communities fully in place. And you can see here that already 4 main types of energy communities are currently possible for the citizens. What we can see also, or what we heard from the partners, is there is a very high interest and motivation within the regional population to establish and join energy communities. And a very impressive number that in the pilot region from Power Ecom in Upper Austria, alone there, you can find more than 800 energy communities with 36,000 members. So this is, I think, really impressive. And us as German, well, we feel kind of small and ashamed when we read this, but you can see how important a good framework is. Of course, also in Austria, you find some challenges. So establishing energy communities still is a very complex matter. And in Upper Austria, the partners from ESV put a focus on the integration of battery storage systems and on networking more of existing energy communities. Oppa. Okay, so the changes, there have been also some changes in Austria. In December 2025, the next step in enabling different schemes of energy sharing implementation was taken within the electricity legislation, and this will come into force in October of this year. And you can see on these images that, of course, informing citizens is very important, but you can see also in the middle that people who are successfully part of an energy community, they are really proud of. So for me, the personal assessment is rather clear. You find a bright sun. Then let's jump to the next project country, Bulgaria. Chances in 2023, there has been the transposition of RED II into the Bulgarian Renewable Energy Source Act. And you find in the country committed municipalities that participate in EU-funded projects, and they are playing a key role in overcoming administrative, financial, and social barriers, of which we find some in the challenges. So, of course, logically, energy communities are still an emerging concept in the country, and despite the transposition, legal and regulatory barriers still constrain then the good development of the models. And another issue is that regulated retail electricity tariffs can be seen as a major barrier to citizen participation. And wind, small hydropower and biomass concepts are in Bulgaria excluded for energy communities, although they would be more suitable for rural areas and municipality-led initiatives. Then we heard before about local district heating, and in Bulgaria, it's the challenge that community-shared local district heating is treated just like professional, conventional district heating operators. The changes that I can see, at least in the country, is that we have very active partners, Municipality of Gabrovo and Pserg, and I think they act like a beacon in the country. And I think with their work, there will be more inspiration in the country, and many more energy communities will be established in Bulgaria in the coming years. So my personal assessment was it's a rising sun for the situation of energy communities in Bulgaria. Let's jump to Germany. Here we need to start first with the changes, because with the introduction of paragraph 42C of our energy economy law, this is in force since the beginning of June, energy sharing is now legally established for the first time in the country. However, we have connected with this paragraph many challenges, because according to this paragraph, smart meters are a precondition to participate in energy communities in Germany. And then you have to connect this with the fact that Germany is among the last EU member states in terms of smart meter rollouts, currently around 5% of all households. Then data management systems at the DSOs are, to my knowledge, scarce in June 2026. And even worse for citizens is that potential members of the ECs expect currently no reduced distribution fees, so no economic benefits are there yet in the country. However, of course, the chances are that we find many committed citizens for the energy transition. And already since 2024, with the enforcement of Solar Package 1, we have the shared use of PV electricity within single buildings. And what we can let's say also identify as a chance is that agri-PV is gaining momentum as part of energy communities. So you can see on the picture, it's not only good for citizens, but also for cows. And in the middle, you'll see that the main, let's say, issue that we have to deal with in Germany are discussions how we can overcome these barriers. That's why for Germany, we have basically only as assessment, the sun in dark clouds. However, a short excursion, well, electrical energy sharing is still a challenge in Germany. The Germans are addressing the important field of thermal energy sharing, and knowing that heat stands for 50% of German total final energy consumption, I think this is important. And in Power Ecom, our project partners from EVO promote successfully so-called village heating systems in the region. We can see on the bottom some images how this works, also with, of course, a lot of discussions, but then also with implementations. Next project country is Ireland. There we have the chances that Ireland has established several national programs and support mechanisms to facilitate the development of community-led energy initiatives. And with the Sustainable Energy Communities Network, they are supporting over 900 communities all across Ireland. We need to know that they have another form of energy communities. They have these SECs, and we are normally speaking about renewable energy communities or citizen energy communities. But this is also an interesting approach. And this goes aligned with the ambitious national climate targets, which include a 51% reduction in emissions and 80% renewable electricity by 2030. So not too far away. And then the fact that there's only one DSO is, at least in my opinion, a great chance. You need to get along with this one DSO, but if you have it, then you have basically won the whole country. Challenges, however, are of course that also in Ireland, establishing an energy community needs a lot of time. And the latest political changes in the framework are actually endangering economic viability of energy community projects in the country. The changes are then that we, as you can see on the image in the middle, we have committed partners that keep on discussing how energy communities could be improved, not only, let's say, at these fairs, but also they go into the office of some ministers and are discussing directly the issue of energy communities with the responsible minister. I just didn't find the image. I've seen it once, but maybe there has been some legal stuff that the minister didn't want to have it anymore online. However, let's say if we speak about energy communities, the challenges lead to the assessment that we can only see a sun with dark clouds for Ireland as well. So Slovenia has transposed RED II and Electricity Market Directive into national law. And both forms of energy communities are legally recognized. And the national law allows collective self-consumption and energy sharing among members, including via the public grid. And heat is also addressed in this framework. Challenges. Currently, of course, the DSO have only little experience with energy sharing, but this will probably in some years be a chance. And in addition, uncertainties around ownership, profit sharing, and the taxation of energy communities is an issue in Slovenia. The changes are, of course, we have, again, very active partners, Energiakademi, and they are actively improving the situation for energy communities in Slovenia. And even better, they are working together closely with the key Slovenian DSO. And I think like this, Maribor region will be a beacon for energy communities in Slovenia. And I see, let's say, a rising sun as my assessment for the country. The last country in PowerEcom, Spain, last but not least, of course, the chances they already have enabled energy communities to enable community participation in renewable energy projects. What is, let's say, the main issue is the collective self-consumption as practical mechanisms and as the most practical legal path for sharing renewable electricity. Challenges, however, as we could see in many or most of the country, that establishing energy communities is very complex still. And especially in Spain, there has been the issue that the time needed to get started sometimes is frustrating and stops the energy communities before they really get into operation. However, also for Spain, we have some changes that might be very, very important for the country. So the recent amendment to the framework introduced the extension of the maximum distance for collective self-consumption from 2 kilometers to 5 kilometers, so more than double, and the classification from 0.5 megawatt to 5 megawatts, which is tenfold the capacity, very impressive. And they also introduced the role of a self-consumption manager. So for Spain, the assessment is then, of course, more positive, a sun with light skies. Light clouds. So altogether, you can see the assessment for the 6 project countries. Currently, yeah, let's be optimist. We have 4 of the 6 which are going into let's say a nice direction, and we have then 2 trouble countries, Germany and Ireland, where we still need to do a lot of work that we can improve the situation. So the question: energy communities on the rise. Under the conditions that all ingredients for energy communities are available, framework, and of course in smart meters, I think a promising future for this concept can be expected. It is known that DSOs play a crucial role. So by all means, it should be tried to get them on board. And for success, municipalities also should inform and support the citizens and participate if possible. It's not possible in every country. And then about citizens themselves, they are enthusiastic if they can become an active part of the energy world. This could be seen in Austria very impressively. So while in Austria, energy communities have come to stay, in other countries, energy communities will be on the rise in the coming years. Finally, big thank you to CINEA and also to FEDARENE for supporting the energy communities. And you will find more information, more detailed information in the handbook that will be published in the coming weeks. And this would it be from PowerEcom.
Thank you very much for this presentation and for bringing us over all the 6 countries involved in PowerEcom. And the next presentation is for ISLET, learnings on community building for renewable energy communities. So Alexis, it's your turn from the Samsø Energiakademi.
All right, thank you very much. Originally, I'm from Greece, but I work in Denmark at the Samsø Energiakademi, one of the partners of the ISLET project. I would like to thank the consortium for inviting me to present the learnings from community building and also giving our perspective from Samsø in Denmark for how to involve people and citizens in processes. The coordinator, we have here the National Research Council from Italy, and we have 4 local partners, which is already one of the learnings of the project. That is very important to have organizations with very good local knowledge to work with communities. So we have the city of Stres in Croatia, the municipality of Astipalia in Greece, Legambiente in Italy, the municipality of Procida, and Miema in Malta. And then we have the supporting organizations, Daphne, Legabiente, and Island Movement, us, the Samsø Energiakademi, and a university for conducting financial analysis and business models. You can see the scope and ambition of the project here, but I will not go very much in detail. There were some little photos here, like flags, but it's okay. You can see we mainly focused in 3 islands, in Greece, Italy, and Croatia. You can see the population as Tipali approached that stress. And then we had 4 more islands to study what the 3 did and what models worked in order to create themselves a renewable energy community. And Samsø, where I come from, where I work, we had a mentor role for all the 7 islands. Samsø became quite known in the news around 20 years ago for being a renewable energy island, producing all the electricity and heating from local renewable energy resources. And it has been a good example of local benefits, because that's what was the driving force. So already at the beginning of the project, I asked one of the project partners if in their island people know what an energy community is. And he said, "Are you kidding? Many people don't even know what energy is." And this is truth. So how do you talk about energy community in a place where there is this big gap? What is left to talk about if not energy? It's left to talk about community. So what is the local problem, and what the concept of energy community could bring, what could be the local benefits, and what's in it for me, what every person could get, and what are the benefits for the local society. So one could say this is Samsø in Denmark. One could say that this is a small island, 3,700 people, and it's one community. So to the outside, yes, and it's also there's a municipality, so there is maybe one voice of the mayor. But if you go a little bit deeper, there are 22 villages. So believe me, there are 22 communities over there. And some are very different from the others. If you could see over there, it's a natural area. And here also, so there's nothing built here. And in the old days, there was a jungle. So the north part of the island didn't really communicate with the south. And people didn't move north and south and vice versa. And there is a rumor that these people are very strange. There is a rumor that if they take off their shoes, they have hair on their toes. They have second breakfast like the Hobbit. No, it's true. So, and they constantly feel that decision-making is made very far away from where they live. This is 25 kilometers. So the municipality is there, the gas station is there, the bank is there, everything is there, and there are 2 or 3 villages over there. So once a year, it's an open meeting, but all the municipal board goes over there to have their meeting there, and it's a very big event to talk about democracy and how it's important to get down to where people are and what they face when we take decisions. Okay, this could have been the logo of our project, talking about local concerns and local culture. This is a lemon from Procida in Italy. I don't know if you know, when the project started, I didn't know that in Procida they claim that they have the best lemons in the world. It's not just part of their, it's not just the juice that they can use. It's a special lemon that they can partly eat. It's not bitter. It's part of many dishes. And when we went there, the lemon was the red thread throughout the entire dinner. Like 3 courses, dessert. There was lemon in many different aspects in the dinner menu. I'm mentioning this as an example that we could not talk about clean energy transition, energy communities in Procida unless we understood basic elements of the culture there and what drives people, what is. When I asked the vice mayor why the lemon is so important, She says she couldn't understand the question. She was looking at me as if I was an alien. Really. She said, it's as if you're asking me why the sea is important. I couldn't believe the answer. So for them, it's like basic elements of everyday life, how they use the lemons, how they grow the lemon trees, what's the history behind it, what are the stories and the memories behind that. And these elements can be used in transitions like the clean energy. Very often we do the mistake to start about how do we do it? How do we do the clean energy transition? How do we create energy communities? And then the obvious answer is renewable energy. So then we start talking about where to put renewable energy, roofs here and there, and land, and maybe a wind turbine over there. And then there is a plan from the municipality or from the ministry, spatial planning, where is allowed, where is not allowed. It's more or less the project is pretty much defined. The where is pretty much defined because this is what the plan says. And then there is some sort of consultation or information event, and citizens become aware, the municipality becomes aware, and then there are so many reactions because these two things have been decided without them. And very often there are so many reactions that the project can be cancelled, or people stand in front of bulldozers. The reason for this is that we haven't talked about why. Why the project is important, why clean energy transition, and why energy communities. And this cannot be just climate change. This has to be based on local elements, as I said before. This has to be based on local needs, why people should accept change, why it's not working, what is not working right now, and what is the reasons to change it, to improve it, like local development, or more jobs, or a green name, or you name it. The answers to the local problems, the energy transition could be one of the answers that solves some of the problems. So the what to the why could be an energy community. And only then, if we have the reason and we have what could be a solution, an energy community, then who is interested to participate? And then people gather around the idea that they have already accepted. And this is how you grow community. When people have accepted it and think it's a good idea, then we can talk about where. We can talk about land, public land, private land, rooftops here and there. And at the end, study how to do it, which is a technology. If it's a wind turbine, one big, two small, three smaller, land-based PV, roof-based PV. These are details that it's not good, it's not possible to start with these details. It has to be start there. And this is the end of a conversation where everybody has more or less agreed, and it's a bottom-up decision-making process. So if you want to develop and change, it is important to meet people where they are. Okay, the EU Green Deal, maybe, I don't know, probably today is in some sort of basement, a little bit tired and exhausted from the different discussions that have been going on and developments, but hopefully still alive. And I'm putting it here because to mention how do we communicate it to the community who is here. There's always the gap, whatever the deal it is, whatever deal it is, whether it's the EU Green Deal or Clean Industrial Deal or you name it, the communication to people on the ground, they don't understand what this is and what's in it for them. We have to translate it, we have to break it down in narratives that are familiar to them and they can understand. This is an example from Samsø. This looks like a wind turbine, but it just represents renewable energy. Don't think of a wind turbine. It's renewable energy before we decide how and where. And so it's in the why and the what question here. We asked people and we had a discussion about, will anyone invest? Is anyone interested in this? Who is going to own it? Who's taking the risk? Who's taking the profit? What is the impact on the local environments? What will be the benefits and what's in it for me personally? So it was a very interesting discussion that lasted. It was a very long discussion. Took a lot of coffee and a lot of meetings to go through these questions. This is a workshop we had last year in Procida, and we were invited to work around topics like this, please don't see that as a list or as a priority, one from 1 to, I don't know, 10. It's just random bullet points. So we had put papers on the wall and asked people to step on the paper that describes best the step where they are. So the organizer had put first stakeholder engagement. We always put stakeholder engagements first. But stakeholder engagement is not, it's not work package 2 from month, I don't know, 3 to 9 for 6 months, and then we move on to work package 3. So if you step on stakeholder, if you step on anywhere else, if you move your feet again, if you move your feet away from stakeholder engagement in your process, the game is lost. So stakeholder engagement is not part of a list. Stakeholder engagement is an element where you have to go back all the time, have another meeting, inform people about what happened in between the previous meeting, maybe have working groups. Each working group has got to go back to the public meeting to inform people what is the development with this study, what does the study say, feasible, not feasible, if there's any development in any special planning, anything. They have to be informed to know that there is this information flow. Otherwise, it's informing, it's not engaging. And we saw that very, very clearly in the ISLET project. Already I shared some lessons learned, but I've put some here also. Poor knowledge on energy communities. It's a challenge of people that don't know what it is about. So focus on what people know. When to engage people in the process. So it's what I just said. Community engagement requires communication 2 ways and continuous. It's not just one way. The most arrogant thing I've ever heard, honestly, was a developer, a consultant developer from a company who said, people reacted to my project despite me having been there and holding an information event. Imagine. Local work is done on a volunteering basis. So it's very tricky to go and offer services to people who work for free and then ask for their support because you can't really do everything. You can't do everything locally. You have the money or the budget or the hours and the expertise, but you still need local people on the ground to call a meeting, to invite, to collect data, everything, and they're not paid. So this is tricky. Hard to reach beyond the believers. So how do you expand that circle of the people who already know what energy is, know what energy community is, and how do you invite people who are completely ignorant, but they want to do something for their community, they want to have cheaper energy, they are interested in the collective, and they are interested in sharing. I heard an example from Austria where they had, I think, 1,000 energy communities already, that they did like a poll. What was the most important reason for you to want to join? And it was not, of course, financial benefits, because they are very low at the end of the year, financial benefits. It was independence. People more and more realized that it has a value to be independent and produce what we consume and not buy it from the other side of the globe. Lack of trust. Community processes are very slow. They can take years. So local knowledge is very, very important, especially in projects like this, where we need to have some results in 2 or 3 years. It's extremely important. It's a no-brainer. Otherwise, the person who is carrying out and is responsible to deliver the local part of the project doesn't have the trust of the local population and stakeholders. It has to have local knowledge. You cannot gain local knowledge in a year. The role of the municipality. We had an example in Greece where people said, oh, it's very good that the municipality drives the process. I trust it. It's not someone else who does it. And we had an example in Italy where the municipality came with a political color. So opposition were not that favorable because suddenly the energy community, to some people, I'm not saying is the norm, to some people can appear as a political project. So we have to be careful and, of course, communicate, and the best in the engagement processes, the more unlikely to occur. And I'd like to finish with the example from Croatia, where as a country, there were so many national barriers that were meant to intentionally or unintentionally resist what the European directives, the intention of the European directives. So imposed barriers that were not foreseen or were not meant to be there. So it was much stricter. So a clear message from there is to have clear implementation guidelines, which I think it's improving. This is my last slide. We have a call for replicating islands, for islands who want to join this informal, let's say, group of islands and communities who work and want to start the conversation on renewable energy communities. So if you scan this QR code if you're interested, or share it with people who might be interested, this will go on even beyond for as far as we are concerned, even beyond the end date of the project. So if someone signs up from an island, it's, I don't know how strict the requirement is, we will contact you and then start a one-on-one exchange with you to see where we are and what you need. Thank you very much. I have put 2 QR codes. One is to find me if you want, and the blue one is to find the project website. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexis, for bringing us back to one of the main pillars of energy communities, which is indeed community, and also for reminding us of the Procida lemons, which is amazing. If you've never been there, go and try the lemons. And now for the project Discover, we have Helmut Herzog. I'm sorry, I'm butchering your name, from Pixel Energy Solutions with a presentation on the cost of success when the growth of energy communities creates new challenges.
Thank you. Let me just take this here. Okay, hi everyone, great to have you here. First of all, I would like to thank everybody for coming here today and listen to what we have to say. Also, thank you to my dear colleagues from our consortium that are here plentiful today, which is really awesome. I will not talk too much about, let's say, deliverables and milestones and things like this from the project, because you heard about those things, I think, very often. I will try to talk a little bit about things that we learned in our project, and also specifically in Austria, because we believe it might be also relevant for any other countries that maybe go through a similar progress as we did in Austria. Just shortly, what do we do in Discover? We are active in many pilot regions. So in France, in the city of Paris, in Italy, Bulgaria, Croatia, and in Austria. And as you can imagine, the situation in those countries is very, very different. We went through stakeholder processes with stakeholder engagement in all of those countries, identified gaps in actually making projects in those countries successful energy projects, and then consolidated everything into what we call guidebooks that helps for the specific pilot regions to go through a structured process in order to make, project ideas a reality. So that's what we're doing. If you want to learn more, we have a poster over there, and of course you can always chat me up and talk to me if you want to. So the topic today I'm going to talk about is the cost of success. So when the growth of energy communities creates new challenges, and what I'm going to talk about is we heard already, and Ingo spoiled it a little bit, that Austria has, I think, done a pretty good progress over the last years. If you have worked together with Austrians before, you might know that we love to complain, usually. I'm not going to complain today, but still complain a little maybe, who knows. Okay, so I think we're with the progress that we did in Austria, we have those many challenges maybe, but I want to talk about the 5 ones that you see here. So we have nowadays already an issue with local grid and grid overload that we need to deal with, and that actually acts as an impediment for further expansion of renewable energy in Austria to some extent. We had a very early adaptation of regulation and specific bills passed that actually enabled communities and actually fostered this big development that we had in Austria, but they were not perfect, of course, and we see that some part of the regulation has now to follow up and improve the situation so that we can move further forward. what we see, and it's also a topic that has been talked about today already, is that social equity and equality maybe is an issue that is maybe not optimally solved in Austria. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Then the cost of the system itself and grid tariffs. As more and more people, might get energy from the self-consumption side, this doesn't mean that the fixed cost for the whole grid system goes away. So, cost for the cost per kilowatt hour, so on, is actually increasing in Austria. And when things scale, many things are not working in a grassroots kind of way anymore. So you have to start thinking about governance at scale. And there's also like the laws in Austria that are following up on that. So that's a couple of topics. So yeah, that's maybe bold. The European pioneer and energy communities. Maybe we were. We have a lot of PV installed by the end of 2024, so it's up 36% versus to 2023 already. We had a very, very early law passed in 2021 already that created the legal framework for energy communities. I think it was absolutely crucial to the success that we saw in Austria. We see also in our project that that's not everywhere the same situation, unfortunately. And I think this was a main difference in Austria. We have a massive number in registered communities. I'm going to talk about this in a second. And the success was pretty fast. So we're talking actually in the lifespan of a project. We started, I think, in 2022, if I'm not mistaken. And in the lifespan of a project, all of this happened in Austria. And I think the success was enormous. And I'm going to talk about the 5 challenges that I mentioned before. So here we go. So currently we have roughly 5,500 energy communities registered in Austria, which is a massive number, actually. If you think we're a 9 million inhabitants country, that's one energy community per 1,700 inhabitants. So it's pretty big. This also includes, by the way, self-consumption, collective self-consumption, so GEAs in German. And maybe at some point in time, we will see some sort of consolidation so that things go together. There's also an issue with the number, actually. We had a huge, I think, expansion of photovoltaic capacity. So I would say many of those projects are built on solar power. Not all of them. We also have wind power and those kind of things, which is more difficult in Austria. But many of it was photovoltaic. So you see the increase actually in the expansion of solar power. There was also parallel to the legislation. There was a very big, very substantial subsidy program going on in Austria, which over the last years just boosted this a lot, as you see. So and again, this is a very nice development, but also had an effect on grid congestion, for example. So here we go. Number 1, grid overload. So in 2023, we had 2 gigawatts of PV newly installed in Austria, which was 10x more than 2020, roughly. So this was like a huge expansion. And the problem, which is not only in Austria, it's in many other countries as well, I think, but it becomes very evident now, is that the distribution grids were not designed for this volume or this flow direction. So what you saw already 2 years ago in certain counties in Austria is that the DSOs would just stop giving you access points and would delay this very long because just the grid was over capacity. So yeah, this is an issue that we see. So the reverse power flow is a part of this, especially in the the rural low voltage networks. And we have now, so in Austria, we have now a program going on to actually invest into the grid infrastructure until 2040. It should be roughly 53 billion euro. And most of this should actually go on the distribution network. So really, let's say for the local upgrade of the grids, and 9 billion for transmission. There's actually program going there. It's an acronym called NOVA. So the network should be first, you know, try to be optimized. So that's what, so N stands for network or nets in German, and then O is for optimization. V stands for the German word Verstärkung, or let's say strengthening of the nets and of the net, and then the A is actually for the Ausbau, so the expansion. So the idea is to try to optimize for now the infrastructure that we have, and Ingo already mentioned it. Part of this is thinking about how can we actually integrate storage systems and all of this just to cut the peaks, because peaks is what actually creates most of the problems with the grid. Yeah, you see one problem that we have because of this huge expansion is that the newest bill, so the ELWG, which is now available, allows DSOs to actually cut peaks, solar up to 70%, and also remote control of PV above a certain threshold, which is mandatory from June 2026 already now. So so actually there's a law that allows, you know, operators of PV plants to be, you know, cut off the grid if such kind of peaks happen, to, you know, further try to not stress the grid too much. And one thing that we also encountered that's a very personal let's say observation is that we see many energy communities maybe in a certain region, and there will be very much a lot of imbalances between them. So you will have one energy community that has a lot of surplus, and then another one that has maybe just you know, consumers and so on. And I would assume that in some point in time we will see some sort of consolidation there in one way or another, either if they merge energy communities to some extent, or as we have the possibility now in Austria to have some sort of umbrella organization. Okay, that's the grid situation. I think what we also see is that at some point, as you know, the situation matures and moves forward, we see that the regulatory framework has to catch up with the reality. So I have here a couple of points here. So the first bill was again passed in 2021, as I mentioned before, enabled communities in Austria, so renewable energy communities, citizen energy communities, but many things were, I would say, not clarified in the bill, in the law. So like, what is the billing, the metering, what are really the market roles? They were a little bit unclear. So there was some sort of fact-finding situation. If we go back just shortly here, you see, so the three energy communities see here, that was the pilot energy communities. You know, there was a lot of learning curve, and through that it became more clear, you know, what are the mechanisms that are really needed, and things that were maybe not legally clarified. Yeah. We have now a new reform coming up, or had a new reform, the LWG, as I mentioned before, where many of those points were addressed. Also, they were addressed already some of the issues that happened due to this rapid expansion that I mentioned before. We also see things getting traction in terms of customer protection, which maybe before was not so necessary, as this was in some sort of grassroots situation. So that's one thing. There's new rules that are opposed to energy communities coming up in October 26. I'm going to talk about them a little bit later on. And also grid tariffs have been you know, renewed or agreed. So for now, also in order to deal with all of those changes, grid tariffs will also be applicable actually to you know, people or entities that actually put energy into the system, not just taking them out, in order to balance, you know, the situation a little bit more for the new reality. Yeah, all roughly now 6,500 existing energy communities must review contracts and statutes by October 26, depending on this new law. And we are currently negotiating a new Acceleration Act, the EAPG. And the idea is here also, this is maybe more on the project side, to enable faster, you know, project realization through having one-stop shops that will deal with all kinds of like permits and so on centrally to reduce actually the administrative burden for project realization. Yeah, so we see some maturing on this side as well. This is just a roughly overview about the, let's say, the regulatory situation, how it evolved. I think the biggest one again was this Erneuerbaren Ausbaugesetz, so Renewable Energy Expansion Act, which basically was the basis for all of what happened in Austria. But you see that there was many amendments in between and new things coming up, and even now new laws being passed. Yeah, so that was the regulatory thing. Okay, what we also see a little bit in Austria is that I would say that social participation is not necessarily equal. I would say we see a lot of uptake on the side of, oh, I have to speed up. Oh my gosh. Okay, sorry, I'm talking too long. So, equity and social participation, we have structural barriers having issues. Energy communities mostly are welcoming people that have access to rooftops. We see an uptake, very slow uptake, early uptake of pilot projects that actually enable vulnerable households. Also, there's a policy response here that the new LVG introduces a social tariff from April 2026. So for the first 2,900 kilowatt hours, there's a maximum of 6 cents per kilowatt hour net, which will benefit roughly 300,000 people in Austria. Yeah, so we're also involved a little bit. We have an own, you know, scheme where we enable joint investment into property, into plants. System costs and grid tariffs, I already talk about this. They have increased, I would say, substantially in Austria because of the situation that fewer households have to actually pay the whole grid situation. So the national average is up 23% today. That's roughly 73 euro per household extra. So the fixed cost spread over fewer kilowatt hours withdrawn in the grid. There's a new feed-in fee planned, as I mentioned before. So when you feed into the grid, you will need to pay in the future as well. This was very controversial, this discussion. As we see, in order to balance, you know, peaks, we see exemptions coming up for storage, battery storage, and other kinds of storages, which is currently in development. And yeah. And governance at scale, I think also going away from the grassroots is you have to think more about structure. How do you actually protect, you know, consumers, smaller households? So there's a lot of legal things that have come up in terms of administration. So you need general terms of delivery, information sheets before contract closing, and among other things. Yeah, so I think those are like 5 examples from what happened in Austria, and which might happen with similar uptake maybe in other countries. So thank you very much for that. Again, those are all of our partners, and you know, come to the cocktail afterwards and talk to me, and I'm happy to share more insights with you if you want to. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the presentation. There are also some leaflets of Discover if somebody is interested at the back of the room, but as mentioned, we are going to have a cocktail later. Also, just FYI, because the weather is quite bad, the rooftop is covered. So we are still going to be able to have a networking cocktail later, even if Brussels weather is not the best. And now for the next speaker is going to be Álvaro Moral from ESCAN, talking about Power Ecom business models for European energy communities.
Hello, good afternoon to everyone. My name is Álvaro Moral from ESCAN in Spain, one of the partners of the Power Ecom project. And today's presentation is focused on business models for energy communities in Europe. Let's start with the agenda of the presentation. The contents of the presentation are divided in 3 main blocks. First of all, an introduction to what are business models and how they have been used for energy communities.
Then some real-life implementation examples will be mentioned from Power Econ partners in order to show how real projects could be transferred from the paper to the reality, thanks to a viable business model. And finally, we'll have a recap of the main conclusions extracted from all the business models that have been developed during the project. Let's go for it. First of all, an introduction to the methodology that all the business models have followed to be developed during the project. A business model is a tool that is used to present information in a clear and simplified way, based on the Canvas model. The objective when they are used for energy communities is that they are used as a tool to create new energy communities or to improve the existing ones. Every business model that was developed in the project followed some sections and was completed in more detail, considering, for example, the location and the legal form of the energy community, the type of the numbers and of the energy community, or the projects to be developed. Now, let's go with the real-life implementation examples. Here, we have selected 3 different countries in order to show that, despite they have very different conditions in terms of regulations, they have developed real projects thanks to their viable business model by adapting to their specific conditions. The first country that has been selected is Austria, as Austria is one of the most advanced European markets in terms of energy sharing and energy communities. As key enablers for that, it is worth mentioning the operational legal framework, with directives that have been transposed, and also the high smart meter penetration, as in Austria, it is a prerequisite to have a smart meter to be part of an energy community. Furthermore, for energy communities, electricity production and consumption must be recorded every 15 minutes. And however, Austria still have some challenge to face, especially in administrative and regulatory terms, and also tax issues. The first example from Austria is the renewable energy community of Reisel. Sorry for my bad German. This renewable energy community started as an association in the municipality of Handenberg. It started as a private initiative of 2 members that also had 1 PV installation. By today, it has more than 1.5 years of operation, and members have increased to more than 150. Also, almost half of them are PV owners, and they also have developed some small hydropower plants. Investments for those projects were made by the members themselves, and some benefits that could be extracted from them are the local renewable energy sharing that reduces the dependence on the traditional suppliers, also, of course, reducing CO2 emissions, and finally, community growth, fostering neighborly connections. The second example is the energy community of the Enstal region. This region includes 9 different municipalities with over 16,000 inhabitants. This energy community started as a local energy community, but today it is a renewable energy community with over 2 years of operation. There are more than 700 members, including a wind farm. But, however, local business have some problems to be part of an energy community, as they have electricity contracts. Most of them have electricity contracts that established just 1 electricity supplier. So, if they would participate in an energy community and they would receive electricity from one of the installations, they could have legal problems. Here, investments were also made by the members themselves. And one of the main benefits that it is worth mentioning is the community growth, as this energy community includes several municipalities. Now we move to Bulgaria. Bulgaria is a country that, despite the transposition of the Renewable Energy Directive 2 into their main law governing electricity production and consumption from renewable sources, they are still facing some barriers that highly affect the development of energy communities. One of the barriers is that energy community members lose their access to regulated electricity tariffs, so they would have to purchase at market prices the electricity that is not supplied by the energy community, and this price is considerably high. Then, national fundings for energy communities are quite limited, so most of the support comes from European mechanisms. Another problem is that current rules favor solar PV installation, and it limits other rural technologies such as wind farms. And furthermore, in Bulgaria, there's not a fully operational framework for energy sharing yet. However, despite all these problems, Bulgaria is putting a lot of effort in the development of energy communities, and as we will see in the next examples, they are progressing very well. Okay. The first energy community is the case of the Gabrovo municipality. This energy community started in 2024 in the municipality of Gabrovo. This community includes 73 members, including the own municipality and 5 small and medium enterprises. It operates under a consortium agreement for collective action, and their projects are focused on PV. Investments for those projects will be raised through a crowdfunding campaign. And as a main benefit, it is worth mentioning that the price that is paid by consumers is returned to the citizens. So it creates new opportunities for electricity sharing and for own energy. Now we move to a business model whose main project is not focused on PV, but heating and domestic hot water production. For that purpose, it includes high-temperature pumps, boilers, and also a PV system that will produce part of the electricity that will be consumed by the heating equipment. This renewable energy community is still under development, and it is planned to be located in the coal-dependent mining regions of Bulgaria. Members will be approximately 18, and they will come from a multifamily residential building. Here, investments will have several sources, including own funds, private funds, and also ESCO contracts. And here, the benefits are quite different from the previous examples, as they are related to heating. First of all, the lower heating expenses, and also the replacement of traditional boilers by boilers that will consume and will operate thanks to renewable electricity. And finally, our third country is Spain. Spain is a country that has new possibilities thanks to the recent changes in the framework. In Spain, there are 3 key aspects to consider that have an important impact in energy communities. First of all, the electricity sharing through the collective self-consumption model. This model allows several users to consume electricity that is produced by a common installation. And this electricity has some benefits, such it has no grid charges. Another key aspect is the recent change in the regulation thanks to the new Royal Decree established in March 2026. This Royal Decree introduces 2 points. The first one is the boost to the electricity sharing distance. It has been increased from 2 kilometers up to 5 kilometers. If you look at the picture, you will see the municipality of Rivas as an example. With these new regulations, it could be possible to cover all the municipality with just one installation, which was not possible with the other regulation. And the other concept that this new change introduces is the creation of the self-consumption manager, which will act as the representative of the energy communities in dealings with the distributor. And finally, the third aspect to consider is that there are transposed renewable energy directives for renewable energy communities, but not for citizen energy communities. The first example from Spain is the energy community in Getafe, which is a city with almost 200,000 inhabitants. This energy community started in December 2024 with 14 members, including a neighborhood association and the Municipal Housing and Land Company of Getafe. Right now, it has more than 30 members, and their projects are focused on PV, starting with 200 kilowatts in some public roofs. Here, one of the main benefits to consider is that 30% of the production, the PV production from their own installations, will be allocated for free to families in vulnerable situations, as Getafe has prioritized the focus and the support to this group. And our final example is the municipality of Rivas, which is also a Power Econ partner. The business model of Rivas is a bit special. First of all, it has a local renewable energy community, which was born in 2024, in October. It was born by 25 members, all of them citizens. Furthermore, the idea of the municipality is to create a global energy community that will act as an umbrella for that local renewable energy community or new ones in order to boost the self-sufficiency of the municipality in terms of energy. Both energy communities will focus their projects on PV and will be complemented by EV chargers. And here, as in Getafe, some part of the electricity will be allocated to vulnerable families. As an anecdote, if you look at the picture, you will see some members of the energy community. I am one of the members of the energy community as I live in Rivas. I am the green one. So I know from the first hand to what it's like to be in an energy community and how they are progressing. And finally, with all those examples and with all the business models that have been developed during the project, we can do a recap with the main conclusions. The first conclusion is that citizens are the largest group to participate in energy communities, followed by small and medium enterprises and local business. Furthermore, most energy communities focus their project on PV, as currently they have the highest development potential and also they are the more flexible projects. Every project has some impacts and benefits in terms of economic, but also socially and environmentally, as we have seen in the previous examples. Another key aspect to keep in mind is that regulations and market conditions vary from country to country. And this is very, very important when you try to replicate a business model that works in a country, because if you try to put it and implement it in another country, on another area, you have to adapt to their specific conditions. In addition, there are other actors that will help with electricity sharing and energy distribution, such as the distributor and smart meters. And finally, one of the most important aspects. It is very important to provide citizens with information and training, and they are the most important tool to boost the visibility of energy communities and to engage as many citizens and participants as possible. This is it from my side. Now I'll leave in the screen our contacts so that you can ask in more detail whatever you want. Thank you all for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Álvaro. And now we go back to ISLET. So some more islands for you today with the presentation from Élodie from FEDARENE, experiences from renewable energy communities on islands from Project Crit Valley and ISLET.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So today I'm lucky I'm the spokesperson for the ISLET project, but to be honest with you, I did not have a chance to go to the islands, but I read all the deliverables. So at least I can tell you like what is interesting compared to the other projects, and also like what are the key takeaways that you can take from these projects. As Alexis mentioned, these are on small islands. So these are the steps of a project. So we had like this the chance of having the capacity building and knowledge transfer from the Samsø Energiakademi. Then what is very interesting, and that I think is one of the key takeaways as well from this project, is that there's a methodology to assess financial instruments for citizen-led energy initiative on small islands. That is quite interesting, and I'll talk about it later. So you have like beautiful drawings of 3 pilot islands, but the idea is obviously to use this as potential for other European islands to use this knowledge and these insights. And the objective were to test with a common model again, like for building renewable energy communities in Mediterranean small islands. Also, what has been mentioned already, but I think this is also one part of this project that can be interesting for other around Europe, is really like how to work with local authorities, how to strengthen the municipalities' capacity to support renewable energy communities, and again build local skills. These are like the objective of a live CET, and this is I think one of the takeaway afterwards from ISLET. So just to give you an idea of what we're talking about, so these are like in red, you have like these islands and how small they are. So really small communities, really testing on communities where you have like very few people. So here is Procida in Italy. So some of the islands are connected to the mainland, some not. So the result is that the energy community has been established with the support from the local community. They have lessons learned. They have managed to draw some lessons. And again, I think this was really, and this is always the thing. So when you look at how many years, and when you look at when we wrote these project proposals, and the difference, I was looking at the slide from Austria, and we look at 3 communities to 6,000. It still like took a lot of efforts, and it's still in some areas there's still like a lot of efforts to be made in how to involve people, how to talk. That's what we heard today again. Like still a lot of efforts in how to involve people and how local facilitators on the ground are very needed to build trust and overcome barriers. In Procida, what is interesting as well, and that might be useful for other communities, is the link as well as you have a municipality involved, the link with the sustainable energy action plans of a municipality, and how you can use that as leverage as well for convincing the municipality to join. And I think one of the things that is also crucial in these projects where you need community to be involved is you need to start small, but you also need like visible results, tangible results that people can identify and can be involved. In stressed Croatia, I think here what is very interesting is so this is an island in Croatia with lots of potential, but we talked about it earlier with one of our speakers as well. So the legal framework is not yet allowing and enabling energy communities to flourish. But this is also, I think, like one of the big learning from this type of projects, where thanks to the EU support, you have the time to fail. You have the experience, and now like the island movement have this experience. They tried once to register the community. They will try once again. They hope like that in a couple of months they will be able to do so. But this continuous loop, this continuous feedback, this they had the time to try, they had the time to fail, they have the time to build capacity, and to also like provide feedback both to their national government but also to European institutions, to make people understand how something that is transposed, maybe but seems properly transposed, could also be very difficult to be implemented on the ground. So unfortunately, Croatia has, in this project, has not yet their energy community, but we hope that maybe by the end of the project, they will be able to have it. And then we move to Greece and Astepalia, where this is here you have an island that is not connected to the grids and that relies on a thermal power plant. So here they were quite successful in establishing the energy community, and the plant is also like going to be installed, and they emphasized the strong support from the municipality and how it was crucial for the development of the community. Again, they emphasized the human capital, the human resources, the fact that you need these people on the ground to build trust. They also mentioned how, again, conflict management, managing the members, managing the community, and that's how you see like how this support from the EU is crucial to start this project and to hope that this will help scale up citizen energy projects in the EU. You need this flagship project to navigate all these complexities. So these are like some small, like some lessons learned from the small Mediterranean islands. So again, they also the energy communities can serve as a living test beds for policy reform. And I think one other thing that I saw personally as a takeaway from all these energy community projects, I think they can be really like a flagship for you. A flagship project for Europe, and the success of what European legislation can achieve. We receive, I don't know for you guys, but we do receive a lot of people coming to us from outside of EU and asking for, oh, can you like give us insight on what all these energy community projects, and it seems to be so successful in Europe. Can you like contribute to research A and B from Australia, from I don't remember where, but a lot of also expertise, and this is seen as also something that is very successful in Europe, and I think all of us collectively can be very proud of what has been achieved. Again, and I think this is often the main takeaway. Local trust and facilitation are critical. There's still some need to work in some countries, especially, and we saw that also in our presentation. There's still like legal frameworks to be adapted, let's say. And again, start small. Make it tangible, maybe a PV plant on a school, so that it helps really like it helps really for the scaling up of initiatives. In terms of replicability, we'll have like also test islands in other countries to fine-tune the models for small islands. And I think Alexis mentioned it already. There's also a call for interest, but I'm not sure we have many islands in the room today. ISLET will also have a help desk. So I think that this is something we have online help desk for the countries involved. So might be worth having some chats with the partners in the help desk and see how collectively, maybe if you work on other parts of the countries, you could collaborate and draw experiences from the ISLET projects and from the islands. And one thing I think for me, this was one of the most interesting reads from the project is like, financing option for RECs. And so also like as the previous presenter showed, what are like business models for RECs? And here you have very interesting insights from small islands, from people who are from islands where the tourism bring an additional challenge in terms of energy consumption. And so you have a very interesting here outcome from these projects on business models for small Mediterranean islands that can be also, I think, adapted to some other parts of Europe, rural areas and remote areas. And that's it from my side. I think as I have you in the room, I had like two other things to mention. So we have another project in Crete if you're interested in islands. So even though ISLET is finishing, if you're interested in how islands can be test beds for renewable energy community, I think this one in terms of integration of renewable is quite interesting. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is like if you are interested in receiving technical assistance, there's a call open there's a call that will be open in September 26 from the Citizen Energy Advisory Hub, where there's free technical assistance, quite a lot, from 20 days to 60 days of technical assistance for citizen energy project. And Vinicius already mentioned the energy community facility call that is also open until the 5th of July. So these are also like some opportunities that I think would be interesting for the audience today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Élodie. And now we have our last presentation from Discover, Building Trust in Energy Communities, the Role of Transparency and Governance, from Damir Medved. I'm sorry, I again butchered the name.
It's okay. Okay, so it's a pleasure to be here. What I would like to talk today, it's one of the fundamental ingredients of building successful energy communities, and this is actually the trust. But also I can talk a little bit about what is happening when this trust is not available. So let's start with this definition of a trust. You know, if you look at our societies, how we are developing, we need to have trust in others. If you don't have that trust, for example, in our doctor, in our teacher, in our priest, if you like, you know, the societies cannot develop. So as the energy systems are very, very complex systems, it's very important to have this trust between the people that are leading the energy communities and the people that are joining energy communities. So that's a very important thing. That's the first thing. And the second thing is we need to have trust between us as energy communities and the government and the entire legal apparatus which is present here. So it must be, if the trust if you like, the trust is efficient, it must be, we must have the predictability, reciprocity, and the shared purpose, which means that the trust is not going only in one direction, it's also going in multiple directions. So why this is important in energy community? You see, there are multiple levels of a trust needed if you want to establish successful energy community. So there must be trust between the members. You know, we are sharing our investment, we are sharing our energy. So that's very, very critical there. It should be trust between the member and the organizer. So if you have a leadership of energy community that is making some proposals that take care about the energy community, there must be trust between the members and the organizer. So we are delegating kind of our decision making to the organizer of the energy community. Another important trust which is needed is trust between the community and DSO. So what is DSO doing to us? You know, how we are communicating with this, how timely they are responding to our inquiries and so forth. And the fourth, and also very, very important, is what is the relation between us and the regulatory agency or regulator, you know. And you will see in a very good example what's happening. So if these trusts are not present, then probably energy community development is not working as expected, or is not thriving as expected. So in our case, I'm now going to the cases in Croatia. What we have, as you heard earlier, a lot of the problems with establishing the energy community. There are just 3 operational energy communities. This is the second one, which was supported by one-stop shop from us. The first one is already closed, so there are 2 active, and there is no single kilowatt-hour energy, electric energy exchange between them. So the energy community of the Northern Adriatic, what we are supporting, has around 200 kilowatt of installed power. Again, not single kilowatt hour was exchanged, but what we established there and helping them is establishing the process, we call that radical transparency. So within the context of the Discover project, we build a lot of the tools which are enabling every member to have a real-time access in all the data, all the documentation, whatever is going in energy community. So this is the first pillar of a trust. The second thing is all decisions which are done in energy community are data driven. So we have systems that collect all the data from all the members of the energy community, and they can access this data real time. So everything is very clear: who is producing, how much is producing, how the data is exchanged. Also, the frameworks about the decision-making process is very, very transparent, and this kind of what we call mutual accountability. So all decisions inside the energy community are done by assembly and in a very clear process. Now, how Discover project has helped in that? So we established the one-stop shop in Rijeka, and this one-stop shop is actually providing a lot of these hardware and software tools that energy community, when you're establishing an energy community, you can have these all the tools available, so you can run that energy community in an efficient way. So first of all, we have this Discover portal, where all the data is visible, all the data which is coming from the energy production inside the energy community, all the consumption is visible there. There is a direct physical availability of our experts in our one-stop shop in Rijeka, but also not physically, but also via remote access. And this is important that we have full backing of the city of Rijeka as an institutional anchor. So the city of Rijeka is supporting all these kind of the activities. Now, why this is important? Because then you are establishing the trust level at the multiple layers, basically, from the governance point of view and from the city point of view up to the tools point of view. Now, inside let's say, the energy community, or inside the one-stop shop, the tools, so the transparency was built from the beginning. All the tools which were developed, as you can see here, this is showing the energy community of Northern Adriatic, so all the interactions, everything is present there. But what is also important here, you have the example of the report for every member of the energy community. Very precise and transparent report is generated every month, and then you can see all the aspects of the functionality of the energy community. The second thing, what was also built inside within the context of Discover project, are different tools which are available, like, for example, the guidebook, which is helping you what means to establish the energy community, what are the processes, how to do it. But also, if you would like to install the PV plant or a battery in your household, what are the steps and how you can do it. And especially, we are proud of our AI assistant, which is having a lot of the knowledge about the European and Croatian laws and can really assist you through this process. Now, the problem, what is happening is when this trust is not present, or is not present. And we have a huge problem in Croatia. As I said, there is no single kilowatt hour of energy exchange. Here is the DSO problem. For more than 2 years, they are blocking the energy community to perform any of the activity. In the beginning, there was excuse about the system, that the system is not present there. And then after 2 years, the contracts which was given to the energy community was completely disbalanced. Everything is just on the side of the DSO. The benefits were on the side of the DSO. Nothing was on side of the energy community, and so forth. There is a systemic delays and systemic silence in what we are talking. So this is one of the big problem. The energy communities in Croatia does not have any trust in DSOs. So that's a problem. The second problem is the regulatory agency. You would expect that the regulatory agency is protecting citizens, but this is not happening. Here you have one of the examples. One of the examples, quite bizarre, is that the regulatory agency in Croatia spent 4 years to just defining what will be the tariffs and what will be the procedure for how the bigger PV plants or sustainable energy production can be connected. 4 years of delays. Here we have a typical example. We have a complaint. You are sending this complaint. They are not taking care about the delays. So, for example, they have 30 days to answer specific, if you have a formal complaint or something. They are not answering, they are not repeating, and you have currently in Croatia what we call administrative silence. You are not getting any responses, not from the government, not from the regulatory agency, not from the DSO, and that's the reason why everything is stuck. So now what is the problem of this, let's say, broken trust between citizen and the DSO and the regulatory agency? The problem is that many things are stopped. The people are asking themselves, should we join energy community if nothing is clear? Should we invest in energy production, sustainable energy production, if this is not clear how it will work and so forth? And this is basically fundamental problem. That's the reason why the things are not working in Croatia. So there are many, I would say, in our case in Croatia, systemic level problems. So there are transpositions done, but they are not done properly. They're basically undermining. The problem is, who is a regulatory agency serving? Is this regulatory agency serving citizen, or it's serving some interest groups and so forth? And also it's a problem that, how you can develop citizen energy communities or renewable energy communities if nothing is defined as is needed. So I would say, so what we see it's working. What we see it's working is that if we have a what we call radical transparency, if you are transparent in your communication with the citizen, with the municipalities, then this is working. We have a full trust as energy community, or as OSS, or one-stop shop. We have full, I would say, understanding from the citizens and municipalities and full trust from them. So if you put all these things in a clear and transparent way as we did it, it can help you to build the energy community. But then if you have a problem of a trust with the national level, with the regulatory agency and with the DSO, then eventually still, although you have this trust between your citizens and the municipalities, you cannot develop. So I would say that what we are asking is very, very simple. Vinicius showed in the beginning that most of the answers and most of the problem in energy communities are regulatory. So this is still a very important problem. So our ask is very, very simple. The ask is that Europe should do something to better check what each individual country is doing. And if this country is not doing this properly, it should be basically rectified. So I would say that energy communities in certain countries in Europe are failing, not because there is a lack of interest of the citizens or trust, but the reason because the institutions are not working. So the final slide is, I would say, what we need from the EU institutions. First of all, we have to understand that if this is happening in Croatia, it can happen in any other countries which have a similar approach. Cannot be administrative silence is not acceptable. If there is a legal obligation that you answer something in 30 days, it should be answered. You should not have answer in 4 years or something like that, It should be monitoring of the member state implementation. Now you have a problem that member state says we have a transposition, but it's not done. And what is the repercussion? We don't see any repercussion in Croatia for all these delays in all these years. What we spent fighting for the energy communities, and still we didn't share any of the kilowatt hour. The guidance and clear guidance from the regulatory agency, from the DSO, how something can be done, that must be established. So it's not, unfortunately, our guideline, what we did, it's not a formal and a final version. The final version should come from the state, I would say. And the last thing is, the mechanism for a rapid dispute resolution must be active. So waiting for the answers for months, for years, it's not a result. Very short from my side. Thank you. I hope that some of these questions we put here will be answered in near time. Thank you.